Hey, what's up everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome back to Monster Energy Supercross 2, the official video game, where today we're going to be playing my custom replica of the 2019 Denver Supercross here in game. Just happened over the weekend, and as per usual with these videos, I'm going to be playing the track that was raced over the weekend and talking about the events over the weekend, and we're going to have a grand old time doing so today. Little comments on the track design, or like what I tried to do with the track to replicate it to the best of my abilities. One thing that's pretty much impossible to factor in is the altitude, dropping bikes about 10% or so in power. So like some of the lines, I feel like that I didn't really build them wrong per se, but you can maybe get a little bit more out of them because the altitude, in real life featuring, doesn't sap the bike down in the game per se. So that was a little bit of a tough part to deal with in building the track. And then they had like that weird table to backside a Dragon's Back before the Supercross triple on like the other end of the stadium that I'm on right now, and I just, for whatever reason, didn't want to use the backwards Dragon's Back that we had in the game because it wasn't really like the Dragon's Back that they had IRL, where they were kind of like double downing the backside of it, and the tabletop that they used before it really wouldn't have set up very well to use in this game either. So I kind of did this weird funky thing where it's like small roller into double and then like smaller double out before the Supercross triple. It's not perfect, but I feel like it works better than if I would have done table 2 Dragon's Back like it basically was in real life. So again, just a couple thoughts on the track, and let's talk about the race weekend that was the Denver Supercross. All that snow leading up to the event beforehand turned out for naught. It was just a cold night in Colorado, and they had some snow during the untimed practice session in the morning, but pretty much cleared up after that. It was mostly sunny actually during the day, and then I heard that the clouds moved in at the evening time, but we never actually got any sort of rain or snow or any types of precipitation to fall on the track as the night went on. So it was a dry, hard-packed Denver, which I guess is stereotypical to the Denver that they had back in '96 the last time they were there, but I didn't really expect that. I thought the dirt would break down and be softer. Definitely wasn't the case, and they had a small set of whoops and pretty decent traction in the berms, but the hard-packed blue groove sections on the jumps definitely wore in, and I don't know, from start to finish it just seemed like it was an Eli Tomac track, and it turned out to be an Eli Tomac night as he dominated. Well, first of all, he started off and qualified fastest earlier in the day, and then didn't dominate his heat race, had struggles in his heat race to go forward, and then Seeley and Bogle actually won their heats. And then, Tomac comes out in the main event, gets a mediocre start like he always does, and then stomps through the field, passes Muscan with like 15 minutes to go still on the clock, and away he went to pick up his, I believe, 5th victory of the season, closes the points down to just 18 on Cooper Webb. But as I mentioned last week, I feel like it's over because 18 points is a lot, and I've said all along that I felt Cooper had a bad race in him, but even so, at this point, it seems like Cooper Webb's bad races, he'll still find a way to finish inside of the top 10, and he basically just needs like an average finishing position of 6th in the next 2 rounds to be champion by the end of the season. But yeah, behind Tomac, who absolutely beast moded it, we had Marvin Muscan, who was leading, beginning of the race, kind of pulling away, and then Tomac got in a second and reeled him in quick. And then Muscan looked like he got tired, in my opinion, but either way, I was just very disappointed in him not fighting for the position once Webb caught him late in the race. It's like, I knew he was tired and all that, but, champions would show a wheel to Webb, would ruffle his feathers, do something to aggravate him so that you can maybe throw him off his game and stay ahead of him at worst case scenario, but best case scenario rattles him so much that he starts going backwards again and falls into the clutches of Bogle and Savacci and all those guys that were behind him. Instead, Muscan folded over like a broken lawn chair, and Webb moved on and cruised to 2nd place. And like I said, it just feels like he's got this championship so wrapped up at this point. It's hard to imagine something really bad happening, but I guess that's the only thing that would claw it away from him at this point. But yeah, Muscan looked like he got tired. Shout out Justin Bogle getting 4th. That's his best ride of the year since San Diego when he also finished 4th, but that was in the mud. So it looks like Bogle's coming around a little bit late in the season here. Contract obviously is up. He was just on a fill-in deal technically for these guys. So probably riding more to his potential he could have had a little bit earlier in the season. Now that the contract's basically on the line here, but good to see him get up there. And Savacci, a week after dislocating his shoulder, looked like he really didn't miss a beat. For a while, looked like he had the potential to land on the podium with the speed he was running and keeping Cooper Webb at bay for a while. But obviously the pain probably snuck up on him, and fatigue with the altitude and stuff like that got to him late, and he kind of faded, I don't know, maybe like 12 minutes into the race, and then picked it back up near the end again to, kind of put pressure on Bogle for fourth, but really just kind of settle in for fifth and try to not let Baggett go by him. So great ride for Savacci. Baggett, again, needs a start if he wishes to finish up front. You got to start at Nashville, or like a better start than he did this week, for example, at Nashville, and was able to take advantage of it. This week he got another terrible start, had to fight his way all the way up, and still only got sixth. And then the never-ending enigma of the sport at the moment is Ken Roczen, where 1 week he looks like he's the best guy on the track and could win the race, and no problem, like he is just outright Ken Roczen ridiculousness. And this week he went back to the Roczen that we had been seeing post Dallas for the 3 or 4 rounds after Dallas, where he was just kind of another guy in the running and couldn't get his fitness levels where he wanted, and felt like he was getting exhausted late in the race. And again, we keep talking about the altitude and exhaustion for riders with the lack of air and heavier breathing and stuff like that, and that definitely could have got to Kenny, but it's just weird, kind of similar to the Tomac struggles of the season, how up and down it's been for Roczen in the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 races at this point, with his speed, his stamina, his everything, really. And it's unfortunate because I want to see Roczen win a race before the season is over. I feel like I'm a broken record saying that over and over again, but I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way and hope that maybe he can get it done before the season's end. Couple things to hit on in this 450 division before I jump to 250s, obviously. So Eli Tomac had a dominating race, I would say, at Denver. Also had a rather kind of dominating race at Nashville. And a lot of people are jumping on the, quote, he's fixed bandwagon. And he, came on Race Day Live after qualifying near the top and spoke to his bike setup being more where he wants it and where he's feeling a little bit more comfortable with the setup. And then his dad, John Tomac, also went on Race Day Live and basically echoed those sentiments and saying that they've just been chasing bike setups all year long. And now that he's comfortable, the old Eli's back. And all of Eli's fans are just having a ball, and they're saying he's the greatest rider of all time again. And it's just the bee's knees, and Eli Tomac is going to go down in the record book as a godsend and everything like that. But if I could just echo one sentiment here, I never remember Ricky Carmichael, James Stewart, all these guys when they were at the height, the prime of their career, McGrath, Johnson, O'Mara, everything. They never, cruised home to a 6th and then came back and said, my bike is terrible. I can't do anything with it. That just wasn't the style. You rode your nuts off. And if the bike wasn't working, you still rode your nuts off, and you worked as hard as you could to finish where you could. And I'll come out and say it, that's not what Eli has been doing. If half of what Eli has been capable of, as we've seen in the last couple rounds, showed up when his bike was maybe not exactly how he wanted it, he probably would be champion this year. But we're going to go another year in the books here where Eli's pretty much been classified as the fastest guy on track, and he'll probably have the most wins on the season because it looks like he may win out from here at this pace that he's running. But again, he'll probably come short of the championship, and I'm just tired of the bike setup thing. Like, I'm tired of these riders complaining about the bike setup, and then you have all the pros jump in and say, well, it's a huge deal, obviously. Like, we need to have our bikes perfect. We're, racing at the height of the sport and doing things more technical than ever and blah, blah, blah. I just don't buy it. I'm sorry. Like, you know what? I'm sure that you need your bike dialed in perfectly to be able to go completely, ape crap with everything and destroy corners and destroy whoops and everything like that. But I would care to wager in his time, Jeremy McGrath had a bike setup he wasn't comfortable with and still won races, and had a bike setup that he really struggled to get the bike where he wanted it to and still finished on the podium. But I just don't see Eli being capable of doing that anymore, because if the biggest issue is going to be the bike, and suddenly Eli Tomac, beast mode Tomac, shows up just because he, turned the clickers 2 or 3 directions to the left, and now his suspension is completely dialed and everything's where he wants it to be, and now he can go beast mode, he's never going to win a championship at that level. Like, it's just, I'm sorry, but you have to step it up when you're feeling uncomfortable. That's what champions do. That's what Cooper Webb has done this year. That's how Cooper Webb is going to win a championship. It's because he's had all these bad days and still rose to the occasion. So again, I guess it's just kind of my rant, and it's not specific to Tomac, because a lot of these guys complain about bike setup. If I could just get my bike the way I want it to, I could be crushing all these guys. Most of the time, they say, I've got the bike dialed and don't back it up. So I just hate to continue to listen to the same story over and over again, when the really great riders of the sport's history, that wasn't the case. Did they complain about their bike setup? Yeah, probably. But I never saw, Ricky or Jeremy or James or Chad or say, something say, you know what, our setup's way off, I'm just not feeling it. And then literally cruise to 6th. Like, they would end up on the podium if that happened. They would ride their nuts off and get the bike up where it needed to be to get as maximum championship points as they could. And again, just kind of my rant about it, because I don't know, it's so mind-boggling to me that people are so quickly to jump back on the Eli bandwagon. Like 3 weeks ago, everybody was, saying Eli may retire, he needs to get off the Cowie, things that, are up and down and da-da-da-da-da-da, and now suddenly he has a couple rides where he's back to the normal one, and everyone is quick to be like, he's fixed, he's God again, oh my God, I can't believe it, where has this Eli been all along? We know that man can win 24 motos, we know that man can win 17 straight Supercross races. It's like, calm down. Like, he's had bike problems, and he continues to blame it on the bike, and he is not going to be the champion this year because of it. So I don't know, like, you got to be all the way across the board the better rider, and it just doesn't seem like Tomac's been doing that this year, honestly speaking. So I know that's going to ruffle some feathers, because there's a lot of Eli Tomac fans on this channel, and I like Eli. I think he's a fantastic rider, but I think that there's more to it than bike setup, and to constantly blame the bike until you get it where you supposedly want it, and then your mind clicks on, and beast mode Tomac shows up, then I can't sit well with that, because that's never been the case before. So yeah, let's talk about 250s though, because I'm done ranting about that. But 250 class, Adam Cianciarulo did exactly what he needed to do. Decent start, got into the lead pretty early, or not early, but got into a position to get into the lead early, and then chased down Michael Moseman, who rode fantastic for a long time, and got into the lead about maybe 8 minutes to go in the race or so for Cianciarulo. And yeah, kind of just took off and cruised to a pretty, I wouldn't say easy, but stereotypical win, I would say, for Cianciarulo, where he gets out front, pulls a gap, and kind of cruises it towards the end. And now he has an 8-point lead in the championship over Ferrandis, who did get his way up into second late in the race, and at least is keeping it close and somewhat honest, to where if chaos and everything hits the fan in Vegas, like, it could still swing his way. But at the moment, it looks like Cianciarulo may have just kind of sealed his fate for the championship, because he doesn't have to ride maybe over his head in Vegas to win the title at this point. And it's been pretty clear to me, at least, that the West riders are better than the East riders. And right now it seems like there's maybe 3 East riders that could beat Cianciarulo if he's a little off his game. But, I mean, even at the East-West Showdown in Atlanta, where all the East guys, were closer and, in more familiar dirt, Cianciarulo and Ferrandis still went 1-2. So, Cianciarulo's really setting himself up fantastically to just have a steady ride in Vegas to clinch the championship and finally get this thing done and in the books the way he's dreamt about for so long and really fought for a long time as well. So that's kind of cool to see. I kind of want AC to win the title this year just because I want to see him go 450s next year. And I believe Ferrandis is probably going to be the favorite and potentially going to win a championship next year. So that's going to work out well for both of them, I feel. And it's cool to see AC get another win up in Colorado. Ferrandis, for his credit in that whole shebang, was pretty good in terms of like reacting to what Cianciarulo was doing out front. I think that he maybe took a little too long to make some of the passes that he should have made like immediately, like snap passes on who was in fourth there or third for a minute was like McAdoo was in third holding up Ferrandis, and it took Ferrandis a long time to get around him. And then it was a tough track to pass on, so I don't want to be like too critical of him for that sense, but I think that maybe championship and urgency wise he could have forced the issue a little bit earlier, got around them, and then caught up to that Cianciarulo-Moseman battle while they were still battling. At the very least, you know, if he doesn't beat Cianciarulo in the main event, he gets close enough to maybe make Adam think about it to make a mistake, and you know that could open up a door for opportunity there as well. But he just kind of waited a bit too long. He was kind of reacting instead of proacting to anything that Cianciarulo did in terms of passing, and still got second. Like I said, keeps the championship close, but it would have looked a lot nicer to only be 2 down if he had gotten a win away from Cianciarulo than it is to be 8 down going into Vegas. And yeah, we'll have to see how it sets up. Pretty clearly, to me, the 3 best guys in the series now that McElrath has gone out are AC, Ferrandis, and Colt Nichols, because Nichols came from decently far back to get 3rd. Kind of cruised through everybody there. And, Hampshire is probably 4th best, and again, kind of like Nichols, came from decently far back to get into 4th. I would say the all-star of the night, not necessarily like a surprise ride, but great to see it happen, was Moseman leading so many laps, and he definitely got tired from having the pressure of the lead and being at an intensity level he may have never been at before, and that shuffled him back to 5th, unfortunately, because I think had he not had to expend so much of his energy early in the race, he could have still landed on the podium with the speed he was riding. But yeah, I think he just got tired, and that happens. But it's good to see that the potential that people have always kind of seen in Moseman, not that it's there, but that he's able to kind of click on occasion at some points. Like some points in the season, he has been one of the fastest riders on the track, coming through the field really well. Doesn't get great starts, but got a great start here in Denver, so that worked out for him. And I mean, he's basically been the best Rockstar Husky 250 rider this year, so I don't think you can fault him for any of his efforts this season. And whether or not he gets to stay on that team next year, I'm not sure. Obviously, they're working on building towards a future with Jordan Bailey, and I think that they're probably wanting to pull in another amateur into that program soon. But I was really impressed with Moseman pretty much all day, and then obviously leading so much of the main event was really, really cool to see, in my opinion. So like that was really good to see. And yeah, that's pretty much a quick synopsis of the 250 class, as it were. Anything else I can touch on from Denver? I don't think so. Felt like that was pretty much covering it all. Oh, no, wait. Of course I can still talk about something. Dean Wilson got hurt. Dino. I was crushed. Like, honestly, watching the main event after Tomac got into the lead and you saw Dino getting carted off, I was just like, just left a sour taste in my mouth. I don't know. Sometimes guys get hurt and you still are maybe hyped to actually see the race, but Dino getting hurt, I just felt like took a big blow out of the race for me. And he definitely injured his shoulder or collarbone of some sort. We don't have details on what it is yet. I'm thinking he probably went in for x-rays or MRI or something before I recorded this video, and we'll have news before the video comes out or something along those lines. But either way, it's not going to be good, because Dean's always had these injury problems come up at the worst possible times in his career. I remember like Red Bull KTM days when he had just won a heat in San Diego. He rode really well in the main event, and then the next week he tore his ACL. It just seems like in all these situations where he's finally found his groove, he's finally back to the level we know Dean Wilson can ride at, something like this happens, and I hate to say it, but that's kind of why teams stay away from him. Like, he's a hugely marketable guy, super nice, works really hard, and it's not, you know, it's a lot of it is bad luck, I feel, that he gets the injury bug so bad. But I mean, you got to stay on the track for sponsor obligations, and a lot of these teams will look at more of a solid guy to stay on the track for them instead of someone who's extremely injury prone these days, unfortunately. And yeah, I feel like Dino is kind of near the top of the list in terms of guys that get injured a lot, unfortunately. I hate to see it, and hopefully he's okay enough to at least still do nationals, which it sounds like he was going to do for Rockstar Husky anyway. But anyway, it just really deflated me for the main events, and yeah, sucks to see. So hopefully Dino's okay, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Always appreciate you guys watching. Try out the track SYS Denver 2019 on the PC, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.